There are definitely some characters that deserve reworks on some levels. Either their kits have consistently struggled even after buffs or changes, their kit doesn't do the character justice for their power set, or the slightest buff would make them oppressively strong and annoying to fight against. Not every character needs a ground-up redesign, and sometimes just adding in a new ability can fix the issues with them. Characters such as Thor or Thing have received changes to help alleviate issues with their kits. Out of the currently available 45 characters, only one has received an entire kit level rework, and it's not because he was too weak. The issue with Jeff was unique to him, and we have not seen another character have this same kind of problem ever since. First, let's look at what old Jeff had and see if you can spot where the design issue is. Jeff's old kit looked like this. Joyful Splash healed teammates. His Aqua Burst did damage in an AoE and had 12 ammo. Its Jeff devoured enemies in a sphere. Hide and Seek allowed him to dive, which healed him and granted him CC immunity. His healing bubbles were burst healing, applied an increased healing, and knockbacked nearby enemies, and had 6 total uses. His passive was his crit damage reduction. On the surface, the kit looks perfectly fine for a healer. Maybe if we look at what changed in the rework, it will tell us what was wrong. Joyful Splash healed teammates and damaged enemies. Aqua Burst was AoE damage, knockbacked enemies, and had 3 total on cooldown. Its Jeff devoured enemies in a cylinder and provides bonus health. His Hide and Seek was still a dive that healed him and gave him CC immunity, but now on a timer. His healing bubbles now healed over time, still had increased healing, and now he has 3 total. His passive was slightly more crit damage reduction. His kit is essentially identical to the one he had previously, so where exactly is the issue with it? Looking at his performance in ranked, he wasn't doing all that well compared to other healers. His performance after his changes actually show him doing better, so what exactly did the rework solve? The secret is that Jeff, while he was a lackluster healer compared to the other options, his performance when played completely outside of his intended role was oppressive and had no effective counterplay. I'm talking about DPS Jeff. This Jeff would sit up on some amount of high ground and spam out your supports, never die, and then run away to do it again if you ever tried to engage on it. This playstyle was not something that was instantly discovered by the player base. It's very counterintuitive to play someone listed as support and instead use their kit selfishly and ignore your team to flank instead. We can see this happen in real time by going back and looking at some tier lists from those seasons, because we all know what truly matters in life, and that's the opinion of my streamer.
Here is why Jeff is not that good. Once you get up higher to like the better ranks, Jeff does, in my opinion, way less healing than every other support. He also doesn't bring utility. His healing is not up to par of what it needs to be. The speed bubbles are great for speed boosting out of spawn. That's where we're at, because then you can play something else. There is like a few Jeff players that are like Jeff one tricks in the top 500 range, and they're legitimately disgusting. And he actually can kind of sneak off on the back and DPS 1v1 somebody on the back line somewhere on a flank. Low key, it kind of works. I don't know. I think there's more potential than people have realized. Little Jeffy only really works in triple support. The reason for that is because Jeff basically plays perma flank, and he just runs around on the flanks and just goes for kills. And you don't treat him as a support. You treat him as a flanking DPS that can also sometimes heal. Jeff is solid. Jeff is pretty damn good. DPS Jeff, terrifying.
This shift is also further shown by looking at the stats of the top 500 Jeff players during each season. You can clearly see a shift over time to more damage and less healing. This is a result of more people starting to play Jeff as damage and not a healer. Since his two kits look so completely similar, where exactly were his problems in his old one? Well, old Jeff's issues came from 3 of his abilities specifically: his Aqua Burst, Healing Bubble, and Hide and Seek. Aqua Burst provided consistent, spammable, and easy damage to land due to the AoE. When run with Luna Snow and using the Frozen Spitball team-up, Jeff's damage had no fall-off anymore. This meant Jeff could easily pump out massive damage with little to no aim requirement. Now, let's add another thing onto the pile and do some quick math for his healing bubbles. Jeff had 6 bubbles, and they each healed for 85. This comes out to a total of 510 healing, not including the boosted healing effect from the bubbles. What this means is that Jeff could have an effective 760 HP that you would have to fight against if he had his bubbles up. This HP total gets even higher if he had time to place bubbles down and have new ones come back off cooldown. Outside of literally one-shotting Jeff, his effective HP pool was higher than some tanks in the game when he uses bubbles properly. Now, let's assume you somehow got Jeff to burn his bubbles, you survived his AoE damage spam, and now you finally got to him and want to kill him. He simply dives into the ground and runs away forever. Because you can't keep up with him, he simply gets away and then relocates to another spot to repeat this stupid process all over again. You had to constantly dedicate resources to try and remove him, but it would only delay the inevitable. He would just always exist, and someone had to be dedicated to try and remove him. You essentially had a rat in your backline that would be shooting constant heaters at your team, shrug off any damage you did to him, and then instantly skedaddle the moment you even came anywhere close to him. So why did NetEase rework him instead of just changing his numbers? Problem was, how exactly do you nerf DPS Jeff without hurting strategist Jeff? When used as a healer, Jeff was lackluster and could use some buffs to help compete with the others. Both playstyles used the exact same kit, so any change to nerf DPS would also hurt strategist Jeff. The answer to this problem was shown in the reworked version of the kit. Jeff's issues can be boiled down to 3 very basic things: large amounts of easily spammable damage, access to large amounts of HP on demand, and no limit to his mobility. The rework solved this by lowering his Aqua Burst to 3 charges, and it's cooldown limited now. Healing over time on the bubbles means he can't instantly remove any damage from himself. A meter on hide and seek means that he can't run away forever and now has downtime between repositioning around the map. Looking at his before and after win rates, we can see that his performance improved across the board. So the rework was a failure then, because Jeff's even stronger than he was before. Well, no. The overwhelming majority of players playing Jeff used him as a healer, so his stats will reflect that. Only a small percentage of players used him as a DPS menace. This rework removed that gameplay loop and buffed him up in other aspects. So what about characters today? Are any of them in the same kind of position as Jeff? While we may have some characters that may be performing their roles too well, and some that are struggling to perform, none of them are willfully ignoring what they are generally expected to do. All of the vanguards currently make space for the team, even the ones that may do it in a way that could be considered a fat DPS. Some duelists may perform too well, or not well at all, but they still focus on their primary objective, which is obtaining picks or strictly outdamaging the enemy heals. Even with strategists during Season 5 and 5.5, we have Gambit and Invisible Woman. Both are very strong characters, but they do not have the same kind of issue Jeff had back in the day. They are still doing what the strategist role at the core is designed to do. They are sustaining your team through heals or utility abilities. Both have their own strengths and weaknesses in their kits. Their numbers may be a bit too strong right now, but they are not ground up rework level issues. You can adjust the numbers and tweak them into a more fair state. To be on the same level as Jeff was, they would need to be intentionally ignoring their team, using their abilities exclusively for themselves, and have that be the optimal way to play them. But who do you think needs changes, new abilities, or even a full redesign?